Okay, so welcome everybody again. So we are here at the LinkedIn Live. We are here to talk about QMS implementation for people that are up-classified, if I can say. So for that, I have with me Stefan Bolleininger. So let us make him enter. Stefan is here. So Stefan, can you hear us?
Hello, Monir. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Great. Yeah, as I said, yeah, a live is really a difficult exercise because there is a lot of things to do at the same time, to move here, to move there. So it's can be a bit tricky. So thank you for that. I hope people, yeah, the issue, I got a lot of people. So we tried to invite a lot of people for this live. We made an announcement. We said, here is the, you have to come at this date, etc. The issue with the LinkedIn Live for now is the fact that I cannot invite in advance, like just send an invitation and here people will receive that when, if I can say it's the time. Apparently for now, you just have to connect with me on LinkedIn. So following, I think, just following or connecting. And then you should receive a notification when the live is starting. It's not ideal for now, but yeah, let's. I suppose they will improve. They will improve that. So we are here with Stefan. Stefan, we will talk about.
We will talk about what you need to do, what is the first thing you need to hurry, and how you get your medical device class 1 MDD product still approved.
Okay, so mainly this is also for people to implement a quality management system and to have everything ready before the date of application so that they can maybe claim also the MDD, still continue to claim the MDD directive before to go to the regulation. Because with the new corrigendum, you can continue to place your products on market with MDD until 2024, May 26, 2025, 2024, under MDD, if your product is already on the market before the date of application. Is it the context of our discussion of today?
Yes, it is. It is dealing specifically with which is the last date you can do it, because you always think it's the 25th of May 2020 when you're saying this is the last day when you can file your class 1 MDD product to your competent authority, but that's not true.
Okay.
For example, my competent authority I work with for here in Bavaria, this one gives me always the impression that no, you cannot think that we will give an approval and we will say, okay, this file is now registered, this product is now registered on the 25th of May. That does not work. Say, okay, they need at least 3 weeks in advance to clear the process. So if you're a small startup which has its first registration, not the second, not the third, you need to be 3 or 4 weeks prior than your application date, because then they still will not take it and say, no, it is not an MDD project anymore.
Okay, so how can we do then to help those people today?
Yeah.
So this is mainly the discussion. Let me try to share the screen that you done with me. This one, but the problem is how can I do that? I've done that last time. I don't know how to do that this time. So let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it in a way that what I always got from my clients. Tell me out of the sudden, oh my God, I will have a higher class with MDR.
Yeah.
And in many cases, I can think with them, okay, yeah, yes, you will have a class 2A device, but that's not sudden. That has been also within the last 3 years now. So you know about that as well. So in that specifically in that case, yeah, you do not know it since yesterday. But since your date is now 110 days or 109 days left, you need to be very, very, very quick to get at least certain project in the middle of the project finished and not to make a significant change afterwards. So now it's time to have 1 or 2 days left for strategies. It's not more. You have 1 or 2 days to make your strategy for the software done. And that's what we try to go on that. And I've heard from one of the comments in northern Westphalen in Germany. That's not the case with the competent authority. We will see how it ends up. From Bavaria, I know it's pretty clear. They told it very, very clear how they want to approach.
So can you just explain to people the concept of Germany in terms of
yes,
for everything? Because
yes, I'm sorry.
Per Landers or something like that, or
in Germany, we are special in many things.
Yeah,
and one of the things is that we have 16 competent authorities. 16 real competent authorities, and some of the smaller countries in Germany, the states have specific other systems and aggregations of them. That's very, very weird. We have one head competent authority, our master, so the B farm, and all then we have competent authorities on the state level, which is based on the federation principle we have in Germany. That's a very conflicting thing, but with MDR it will be changed, it will be better.
Okay, and I think it's the only country in Europe that is like that, I suppose, if I remember. I think from I didn't heard that from other countries, but maybe I missed one. But for me, it's the only country where I always saw this kind of thing. Same kind of thing. I like the US with the United States, with each state has its own rule, etc., etc. So it's quite funny. Okay. What is the next thing that we should do?
Yeah. Yes. Now, after we have our mission statement, which, oh my God, what shall I do? Now we need to make your mission introduction and go on the way to say, okay, prepare your minimum product, which will not lead in a significant change. Okay. Then create all data, and it means you have some kind of double duplication work to make sure you will get it correctly. So for that case, in that specific case, you have to define a very, very, very small product, which is not a significant change. So nothing on intended use, no risk minimization and measure that can be removed from the product, but you can leave it to make, remove some of the convenient stuff. If it's not finished in the programming now, you can split off the convenient stuff. Go on the minimum viable product, the MVP. That is the thing you need to deliver.
Yeah, so minimum viable product that is still efficient, that is still providing something, but because when we are starting to develop some software or some products, it's more like we have this feature plus this one, etc. And we start to say, oh, let's make this option, let's make this thing, let's make that. I think now you don't have any more time to think about this. So we have to be rushing, if I can say, to the standard, the essential, so that you can place your products on the market prior to May 26, 2020. So when we are talking about software, significant change, it's something that we discussed with Eric Volbrecht. He says that it's changes. Software is always changing. You are putting a patch, you are putting an update, you are putting a lot of things. So this is something that you have also to be careful on. But can we go to the data or the process? What people have to start to do now?
Well, you have, each product has a requirement specification, has an intended use, has a risk analysis. So from your intended use, from your intent, also to be in the MDR term, to your intended purpose of the device. What shall it do? What is the diagnostic answer, or is the indication? What is the purpose? What is the therapeutic function? And that shall be the one you really need to be sure about. And then after you have done that, you go on the way to say, okay, I select all my requirements now from my software product and from all my requirement specification only to fulfill this specific parts. So for me, significant change, there's currently a guidance document from the NBO in draft, which will make clear about what is a significant change. So, and for that case, and changing an algorithm, for example, will be a significant change. But for me, that's not determined enough. for me, I say, okay, it can be any kind of algorithm around it. If at least they will not, and that was agreed by at least 2 notified bodies in the past. If we do not change the intended purpose and if we do not change the risk measures, it is not really a significant change, or new standard needs to be introduced because of functionality. If that's the case, then we go very good with not having a significant change, and that means we will have a good product which can be marketed then. So if we do not touch significant change, then we can go and claim class 1 for the next period of time, and that is the important thing. Because we go the struggle. We really go the struggle to say, okay, we do not want to have our product in 2 months under MDR. We will go that struggle to say, okay, now an MDD, and then extend for 4 years. So significant change must be definitely clear. If that's the case, we go forward.
Yeah. So just for people, I discussed this morning with Eric Volbrecht regarding the significant change, and we were talking about creating a podcast about that. So it's something that will come maybe in 2-3 weeks. I'm still working with him on what exactly we should mention inside, what are the elements. So it's something that definitely is important for people, because as I said, we discussed with him last time when we discussed about class 1 upclassified, and he mentioned specifically that significant change can be really something problematic for software products, because they are changing all the time for security, for example, for cyber security, for updates, for when Windows is updating, maybe your software should be updated also, etc., etc. So this is something that should be clarified, and we'll try to do that with Eric Volbrecht in a next podcast. So we are trying to plan that.
That's great, because you can talk hours about that. There's one question coming up right now about the enhancement of an algorithm. Well, is possible if you do not extend or change your intended purpose and it's not changed by for a risk mitigation. If you can clear on that, then you can define this internal documentation. So for me, I would go that way as well. If I say, okay, it's an enhancement, it's a just adjustment, it does not touch my intended use or intended purpose by making it broader or making it smaller. It just is more definite, better in the AI topic or kind of that, or machine learning, then it will not, from my perspective, significant change. But in that case, you can ask 3 lawyers and get 4 answers.
Yeah, true. And when you are not specialized in creation of software, of algorithm, of writing things, it can be a problem also. So you have really to have specialized people. Do you think that notified body now is hiring more people about that to help?
Well, yes, no. They want to hire good new people to make sure that it's more clear. But well, how to get them?
Yeah, it's the fact that before it was class 1, so they don't need that, they don't need this expertise. Now it will become upclassified, so it means that if notified bodies by date of application should have some people available to understand software development, etc., etc. I think they had because there are some products that had also some software inside, so it's not like they don't have, but they should have more people for that. And I don't know now if for example, they are recruiting a lot of those people and train them to be really compliant, to understand the regulation, to understand what is significant change, and then to judge if these elements are significant change or not.
Absolutely. And one of the questions also is now one of the a significant change to the software architecture. Well, it is a clear yes and no. It can be that's you need it by your own documentation. If you only change something in the architecture which does not conflict with your intended purpose and not with your risk requirements, and now you are with a spot on the specific termination of risk requirements and risk mitigations. If you do not change that, then you have a very high likelihood it will not be a significant change, and you can go with documentation. But it is a class 1 product. It is a class 1. That means it is always on your own to decide.
Yeah.
If only the competent authority can look at you. All others can't. If a notified body, if you have for other products a notified body, and they look into your class 1 product and say, well, that's not right, it will be a class 2A, that's a significant change, then the only thing you can do is telling it as a Big Lebowski does with, well, that's just your opinion, man. Because
Exactly.
it's nothing which they have around. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move now. Watch out for MDR. So what we need to do is having this quality management system, this technical file, and the clinical data, etc., etc. How we do that?
Yeah, that's a very important thing, because the MDD is quite nice and very good, but the MDR is much more, detailed and clearer. So look into the MDR, look into the good points of the MDR, and then look what you can implement now for MDR to not to undertake a double documentation. For example, that will not work for the DOC. DOC is different, but you can enhance your current DOC to make it also available for MDR. So just change the lines, make it easy. And the good concept, for example, what I think, personal opinion, what I think is a very good concept is a clinical evaluation plan, clinical evaluation report system. That is, with the stages in the medtech document, was not so clear as it now is under the MDR, and you can use the MDR requirements now for your MDD project as well, because it's not a better approach. It's not a and it is helping to make a sustainable system. And you do, for example, clinical is one of the things you will have also to pass on in May. So you to use that. And also, if you look into MDD, you see the quality management system placed in all kind of words in the MDD itself. It's everywhere and nowhere. And now with the MDR, it's more clear. You will find it, Article 10.9 A to M. I like to rephrase that so often, because that is all processes you need. And it's then, if you have this line A to M, if you go in them and take only that terms and place it into the search in the PDF or HTML, it depends on what kind of format you like, then you can look into all of them, into all of the findings and the query you can see, and all results bring you to a robust process. So take the MDR process, not the MDD process anymore, and make your system compliant to MDR, except the thing that you will have a MDD declaration of conformity and the essential requirement list for the MDD. That's thing you have to do special. The upgrade is not so big, but that's something you have to do specialized for the MDD, not for the MDR, to make it so for me, do not duplicate the documentation, focus only on the things you need to have specifically.
Yeah, so with the MDD, there was no specific requirements to have a quality management system. It's good to have, but it's not like something specific. With the MDR, it will be needed anyway to have a quality management system. And the MDD, it was, just saying you need a quality management system. But as you mentioned, it's everywhere and nowhere, so it was not really clear. So at the end, we're using the ISO 13485 to say we have a quality management system. Now with the MDR, even if you have ISO 13485, it will maybe not be sufficient, because you need to include some of the elements that are on the MDR to your quality management system, like PMS requirements, like PSUR, like PM, CF, etc. All those things that are needed now. So what you are saying now, so it's for people to start to be compliant to MDR, even if they are under MDD for until 2024.
Absolutely. Yes, because there are many things also under MDR which need to be in place on 25th of May of this year. For example, vigilance, PMS. That needs to be done now. Also, the role with the person responsible for regulatory compliance, that needs to be done now. And do it now. Do it fast, do it now. So make sure you have that. You have your minimum viable product. You have your minimum quality management system, Article 10.9, and then go on all the points you need for having upgraded to MDR as well, to make sure you have a robust system. You do not need to care about anymore for up to May, and ensure you have everything clear. And that
Okay.
is the thing you can get a big value from the MDR.
So here you're prepared for the people, the
Yeah.
article 10.9, as you said, from A to M. So 10.9
Yes.
from A to M, where everything is written. I will add to that you have also to look at the Annex 1, but here it's mentioned on somewhere also on the Article 10. You have also to look at the Annex 1 because the GSPR will also make some requirements, and maybe this can be answered with your quality management system and with your procedures. So this is also something that you should not forget. So what is your? I mean, now I am a company that is creating this software. I read this 10.9. What should I do exactly?
Sorry?
So you are now having this article 10.9 from A to M. Should I go one by one and try to see if I'm compliant, like what I'm doing with GSPR, or what is exactly the strategy here?
Okay. Go line by line. I know at least one notified body, MDR notified body, who goes exactly line by line through it to say, okay, if you are clear for having the MDR compliance. So what I also do is, okay, do I have everything in that specific chapters to make sure this, I have all this files cleared. So I take it as a list directly from the PDF, takes it as a list and look in where do I have fulfilled that in my organization. If I do not have fulfilled that in my organization, I need to prepare something. But look at it. It's easy. It's no big thing. For example, one thing is identification of applicable general GSPRs. Yeah, take the GSPR list. Now, as an MDD, as you know, you're an MDD project. Okay, I do not take the GSPR. I take as the essential requirements, but fine with it. I will do that later on with GSPR. The next thing is ensure that you have the responsibility of the management, and management responsibility is clear and defined. Do I have some kind of paper which tells me? Look around, go in my processes. If I have processes, go into it, and else I define what the management shall do. Look into the MDR for the term top management or management itself, without risk management and all of that. And then I look, okay, these are my fulfillment topics. Done. It's quite fast. Or you simply can ask me. I will give you a full approach on that.
You have the quality. Normally, the quality manual should mention this kind of thing.
Yes.
Show the org chart of
Yes.
the organization. Show who is the role of a management representative. Maybe also the role of a PRC inside, etc., etc. So you can put that there, or put that on each procedure to say my management is responsible for that, like for during a management review or this kind of thing. So there is many places where it's available, but yeah, you have to show that what are the responsibility of each people on your management.
Absolutely. And in case you find one spot you are not clear about what is mentioned, look at Monir's podcast. You will find for every of their topics, you will find at least one podcast.
Yeah.
Except there's only one thing where I have not found one podcast episode, and that was handling communication to competent authorities. But
Yeah,
it's a half page.
I will do that because I was trying to get somebody to help me regarding the vigilance reporting, and this is one part of the communication with the competent authority. So I'm still trying because since January 2020 now, we have a new MIR form, a new vigilance form to use, and I'm trying to get somebody to help on that. There is also one which is risk management, and just for people, next week I should have another LinkedIn Live specifically on ISO 14971. So I invited Marcelo Antunes, and he will help us to understand what is this new version, the 2019 version of the risk management. So yeah, I'm trying to fill all those gaps here, but it's something that takes some time.
Yeah, and that's also one of the very good things. And what I have open, what are my most important thing for the software developers, software companies, that is point G.
Okay.
That's the thing. That's a daily work. That is there. No, it's not from MDD. It's from MDR. It's the MDR Article 10, and this is as a point G. Product realization included planning, say design, development, production, design transfer, service provision. This is the most important thing for the developers they need to fulfill, and this is most likely where you have the highest burden, because all of the other things are quite standard if you do a medical device.
Just one thing, Stefan. I see on the comment that people are saying, so Ed said that class 1 does not require a design architecture document. Is it clear or not?
Yes, that is completely true. Well, it is completely true and not true, as Jonathan has already pointed it out correctly. That is, it is depending on the software classification. Software has a classification A, B, C. He defined it very, very good in his comment to say, okay, if you have the specific class, you need an architecture or not. The 6, 2, 3, or 4 standard tells you exactly what you need.
Okay, so we are not talking about the same classification as medical devices.
Yes.
Inside the 62304, there is a specific classification for software, and there it tells you exactly what you need to have or not.
Absolutely, exactly as Jonathan has it in comment.
Okay. Okay, so one question also about software, UDI. Where do you place your UDI on the software?
I know that happened. Okay, it depends. If you have
I mean, first of all, here we are talking about MDD, so you don't need a UDI.
No.
At the beginning.
And also
you need that.
Well, I do not need an UDI now, but that's copied directly from MDR. I do not need an UDI for the MDD product, so I do not take care about it. Same as GSPR, I don't have GSPR essential requirements. I do not take care about the UDI, except I have UDI already in my company. If I have UDIs already in my company, then I include them as well, because it's quite easy. I do not take another registration. I take that directly from my company's UDI register, and so I place it depending on the product. If I, for example, have only a medical device algorithm and not a GUI, and then I cannot place it on somewhere visible, I need to make it visible by having some kind of command. That's one thing. If I have a GUI or any other UI or for my software, then I make it prominent in an about box. There are plenty of ways. The same. I put it on the same spot where I identify myself as a legal manufacturer, and where I have my legal duties like licenses and all that kind of stuff. It's not needed to be very, very directly accessible. For me, it is about box. That's the first thing. And in case I want to have it, and I think it's pretty good, if I have a start screen, I put it also on my start screen. But that is not defined as a mandatory requirement. It needs to be identifiable, and that's done with the about box. And in case if I do not have a GUI or any kind of UI, I use it by a command and describe that in my user manual or integration manual.
Okay. So if you have it, it's good. If you don't have it, don't take care about that, and move forward to the different next steps. I see something about clinical evidence, but this is for class 2A. Here we more on class 1. But for class 1, here we have in F also clinical evaluation. So what you do with that?
Well, for the software, for the class 1 device, it's quite easy to make it at least burdensome. And if you look into the guidance documents, there is an MDCG guidance document for clinical evaluation of medical software. That's exactly defining what you need to do. Unfortunately, I'm no real clinical specialist. I'm an overall quality and regulatory, and I cannot define you exactly what the term should be, but you need to have a clinical evaluation plan, including all your approaches you want to go forward, and also your clinical evaluation report with your literature searches, maybe studies if you need somewhere, or also in all the things where you where you get information for. For example, with one of the auditors, I always go through Google Scholar and think that's a quite good resource. And also my personal best resource of data is next to PubMed Medline. It is a MORT database from US mode. That's a very good thing. Never use the German BFARM database, because it is horrible. It is horrible. For a class 1 device, I would use MORT and say that's it. And the BFARM has the XML file is so horrible to extrapolate the right data. So it takes a long time with no result.
Okay, so go to the US instead of the German German database. Then
Yes.
we have a question here. Where on what do you place the CE mark if there is no IFU required?
Well, when I do not have a IFU, that's quite good, because eIFU or something like that is all available, is all possible. I need to have the information already on my website that what my device is, and then I have an about box where I have my UDI. There would also place my CE, and I always place my CE on my start screen of the software. If you, for example, if you start Word, you will find Word, and Word is loading. That start screen, I would always do that also for my medical device software, for my standalone software. Why? Because then I can tell my customer, this is a medical device, and I have my CE placed prominently there. And yes, I can still put software under the MDD prior to May 2020. That's still possible, and it's that's one of the questions. My class 1 software can be placed on the market still under MDD, but you need to be fast, and that's what we are defining here now.
Yeah, so you need, as we mentioned here before, you need to create your quality management system, your technical file, and have some clinical data, and then it could be great. Just to come back to the point of IFU, if you have no IFU, you said that you can have eIFU, so it's electronic IFU. So you have just to have that available electronically on your website. Should you mention that somewhere that it's available on your website, like on the screen or on the box of the product? Or
yeah, in general, if you have a standalone software, you have some kind of either you have tooltips directly on your software, which also a piece of IFU, and in case you have a help section, then you place it there and the link where you can download your software.
Okay, so no need to create paper for that. Okay,
it depends on the country. It depends on the country, and if you can use the electronic IFU.
Yeah, and I think it's great also in terms of languages, because you can put all the languages that where you are distributing your product, so it can be easier then for you instead of printing and sending things. But yeah, as you mentioned, it depends also on the country, because some local laws also are applying here. Okay, is there any other things here that we should talk about, like serious incident, field safety corrective action? So you have to have a procedure for that. Vigilance, we said also that. Economic operators. Just want to know, when you have a software, and do you also have authorized representative? Do you also have importer? Do you also have distributor for something like a software that is just downloaded from a website?
The economic operators, for example, the importer and also the EC rep can also be established for software. So it is not meant that you do not have that for software. But in software, you get a specific, with MDR at least, you get a specific concept of a marketplace. Okay. And that kind of a marketplace helps you, if there is no commercial activity between them, to ensure that you have a round system and they are a bit out of the place. Well, but there are currently very good discussions also with lawyers ongoing who tell us, yeah, I do not place software on a market because of software can only be given a right to use it and not transfer the software as an overall item because it's not physical. Well, there are quite a lot of things going on right now. And from my perspective and what I currently have seen and used, correct me please if I'm wrong on that, you have also distributors for medical software if you sell it.
Yeah, usually we have some kind of agreement with some specific sellers, which then are considered as distributors, and then you have to have the agreement with them. You have to check. I mean, the distributor or importer has to check things. The only thing that I'm a bit not sure is for the importer is the fact that he has to place his label on it and to say that I am the importer. So for software, I don't know how we can do that. unless he gives a patch or an update of the software to say, on the front screen to say, I am the importer for that. But this is something that, I don't know. But as we said, this is applicable for MDR. For MDD, you can still go with what you have for now. But I think it's a question that maybe we should try to answer and to find the answer so that people can know exactly what to do if they appoint an importer or a distributor for their software.
Okay, there's one thing. There's one really good question. As in change in interpretation of data will require new UDI-DI, and then it's a significant change to MDR. It's completely correct.
Yeah.
How would this impact medical labs? Well, for MDD, you do not have an UDI. You do not have the responsible to place an UDI, so UDI rules are not applicable at all. And by that, well, it's not applicable to be a significant change.
Yeah, but as soon as you have a significant change anyway, you have to apply MDR.
Yeah.
So maybe also something to come back on that. If you plan to have a significant change, or you are already in a good shape because you already started to create your quality management system, you started to create your technical documentation, and there is just some small updates to do to be MDR compliant, then it's good. Then you can plan the change and become MDR compliant, but you have then to appoint a notified body, etc., etc. But if you plan the change and you have nothing ready, to be honest, it's quite dangerous for you, because then just having an appointment, a meeting with a notified body to get MDR certificate can take, what we said last time, 6 months, 1 year?
For the certification, 1 year is currently a very good approach. If you calculate that, you can, if you have the correct resources, and then you can be faster.
So if your significant change can wait 1 year to be done, then it's good. If it should be done immediately, then it can be really dangerous. So you have also to take that into account when you are making some of your scenarios, to maybe have half or three-fourths of the job done in terms of the MDR, and maybe leave the rest for when you have really a major change that is happening to your device. Okay, so here we have to go through this route to define what claims we have to do there.
Yeah, that is one of my my colleague created that. That's one of the loveliest pictures I always have about the intended purpose. That's one thing which is most likely defining everything with significance. And so intended use, indications for use, the principles of operations, and that's the thing where I go also into the spot with the significant change topic. The principles of operations, if I change my principles of operation, even for a software, then I have a very high likelihood that I have a change in a significant change. If I do not change the principles of operation and it is still in the same way as it achieves the intended purpose, it's not always meant to be a significant change. Even if as a guidance document gives us very good information, and by that we have a very strict and a very clear policy with the MDR for the transition from MDD to MDR. It's not so given. So that is one of the things I always recommend and use for, okay, at first thing I look into my risk analysis. Is it changed? Yes, no. And the second thing is I go into my claim list and my intended purpose. Is that changed? And if not, I have a very high likelihood, and does not even reflect in the principles of operations, then I have a very high likelihood that nothing will happen.
So if we change an algorithm or a software and that is not touching any of this, most likely there is no significant change. It's what you are saying.
It has a very good likelihood that it can be documented in a way it will not be a significant change, yes.
Okay, so it's a good point for people to really understand that, and understand what are the questions that you have to ask yourself to estimate. It's always an estimation. The problem is that we say significant change, but then it's really some kind of common sense that you have to say, yes, the significant change or not. And here are a way for you to find if yes or no there is, and you have to ask those questions, to look at all those steps, and then maybe to justify that on the report to say, no, there is no principle of operation change, the intended user is the same, the indication of use is the same, the intended population is the same, etc., etc. And then you can say, by that I can say that there is no significant change for for your software. Okay.
And one thing from the comments, everything we have looked into the past, it is also applied. Standalone software considers also apps. So an app is also kind of standalone software and medical device software. And so everything we told here is applicable for apps as well, not only for computer software.
Exactly. So yeah. So as soon as you have something that can go on many platforms or many different things, so it's applicable here, and you have to go through all those principles. I think there will be more and more of those apps or those e-health, electronic health application or software that will be appearing. And I think there will be a need of more support to those companies to really understand what they have to do. I created an article on SAMD, so software as a medical device, where I started the article to say, somebody wake up in the morning and say, we'll create an app relating to this and to that. I will save the lives of people, and say, calm down. First you need that, then you need that, then you need that. It's not like you just create an app and put that on the app store and then you are fine. No, you have some regulations to follow. So don't be so impatient. So yeah, I've made this article. So if you want to go to easymedicaldevice.com blog, there is an article about software as a medical device to see about the rules for software, etc., for the medical device regulation. Okay, where are we now? What are the different steps that people have to follow? And here we are talking about from the beginning to the end, if I can say. So what we should start with is always the user requirements.
Yeah, that's my slide to show for the companies who approach me and tells me, yeah, I want to do that. What do I have to do exactly? Please describe it for me in a way that I can place it on my wall and give it to me everything, and to make sure I have everything. So, and if you look at it,
it's really a step-by-step process that people want to hear about. Step 1, I do that, tick. Step 2, I do that, tick. Step 3, I do that, tick, etc.
And if you look into it, there is, it is not in the first parts where there's something like coding. First, I talk about regulatory. I do not talk about that, how you do that practically in the order of an agile development. I will talk about it in the way that your technical file is based and your technical file is created. So for that perspective, you start with user requirements and your intended purpose. Afterwards, you go forward and create your software development planning. Then after the software development planning, you do, if it's needed, make your software requirements if they are different from the user requirement, and they most likely are because they are technically. And the user requirements are stories, parts from the users, what a user will do with your software. It is part of the information to the intended use. And then go and the software requirements or software system requirements, more or less, they are in the base that you go into. Technically, how can I fulfill my software? How can I fulfill my user needs by creating it, making it technically? That's something many companies currently mix up with the user requirements because of agile tool equipments. Like, if, for example, I know plenty of companies who use Redmine, Jira, and something like ticket systems, and use a ticket and a check and say, yes, that's it, that's my requirement. And then I look at it, no, it's a user story, it's not a requirement. Okay, yeah, it's a user story, yes, but we implemented it. Okay, how do you tell your software developer to implement it?
Exactly.
Based on architecture. And they said, oh no, we don't have a step between. Okay, yes, you need a step between. So that is the thing. And if you look into the big balls on the left and on the right, you have user requirements and validation. That's the start and the end. And all between is, practically it's the V model. If you're in which line you put it up, it does not matter. And so after your requirements, you make architecture and design if needed. For class A software, there's no need to have an architecture and a design, but it's very, very, very encouraged for you to have a good architecture, because architecture will help you in many places and many things to discuss about how coding works. Then coding, afterwards verification, the test against the software requirements. Then the release. If you want to know about the release and you look into it, like it is in the 62304 chapter 5.8. There's everything described. Release letter, going on with that. And at the end, your validation. Validation, going forward to the user requirements. Make sure you have the correct user requirements, everything done. Validation is a statistical approach. It is not a single person. Validation is statistic. So, and then that is, if you look into the 8 bubbles in the lower lane, these are everything which is done by software or product management. And then you have people find together to that, you have all your regulatory stuff. And I just have it in the arrow, which is much cooler than the bubbles. And to tell you, okay, first start with intent purpose, done by user requirements next to them. Then classification. Yeah, for class 1, you already know it's a class 1 device. And then clinical data, creates a clinical data for your device, clinical evaluation plan, clinical evaluation report, fulfill a risk management, and then make sure risk management has introduction into the software requirements. That's the correct spot. And at the end, general safety and performance requirements or essential requirements for that. Essential requirements for the MDD, for essential general safety and performance requirements for MDR. And then at the top of this arrow, there is, where it's now stating easy medical device, there is your declaration of conformity.
Okay.
That is the last thing.
Just one thing. So you need all what is on the top, if I can say, to be really in compliance. But to get what is on the top, you need what is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because to answer the essential requirements, you need what is mentioned at the bottom. So because there is some people that will say, do I really need to do all this to place my products on the market under MDD, I mean? And the answer is yes, because with what you have at the bottom, it will justify what you will have on the top. So it's why if you never, for people that maybe have never placed a medical device on the market, the essential requirement is a list of all the requirements that you have to fulfill. So there is there was 23 in GSPR. There is can't remember 22 or something like that, or less in essential requirements. And you have to go one by one and then say yes, I am fulfilling this requirement because I have let's say the software test that was done. I'm fulfilling this requirement because I have the architecture and design. I'm fulfilling this requirement because I have the validation done. Yes, I do that, all this, etc. So there are people that will say, oh, I just have to fulfill the documents on the top, but to do that, you'll have to create the documents at the bottom also. So just to be clear with people that are saying it's a class 1 device, I don't need to do all this. And the answer is, you should do this, maybe not like, as we said, with a minimal viable product. So it's not like having all the features, all the things to not make it too complicated, but you need to have that so you can really provide the right justification that your product is safe and performance to be placed on the market. And this is in case of any competent authority check or any thing that is happening with your products that is maybe not compliant. Then you can show to them, yes, I have everything. Everything is on place, and I'm compliant to the regulation or to the directive.
Absolutely.
Okay, some more questions. Chapter 323.1 says, if we have a website, we need to make available the IFU.
Yes. If you have a website, you have to make your IFU available on the website. But you do not need to deliver you do not need to deliver the IFU open to everyone. You can make a restricted login for your customers who purchase your device and give them the information for the IFU.
So you mean here it's not to disclose all those information to everybody, to have something like is more secure that people can download it. So it's available on your website, and you make it available just to the buyers, to the confidentially to the people that buy your products only, which is a way to do that. I think it can be a difficult thing to set up and to do, but you have this option also to say, yes, it's available on my website, but it's available only to my customers.
Yeah.
Okay. How long does it take to do all this? So I think
how long?
It's easy.
Well, it depends. No, honestly.
It depends on a lot of things. I think here we
Yeah.
are. It depends at which stage you are actually. It depends what you have done. If you start today to do that, I don't know if it depends on your product, but I don't know if 4 months is sufficient to finalize all this. To create a quality management system, to do all those documentation. If you have some tests to do, also it depends. For me, it really depends. Each project it's a case by case. So.
Yes, absolutely. It's a minimum technical documentation creation I have seen in my lifetime was a very, very, very small app, and it took them around 250 hours. Yeah, 1.5 man months to make sure they have all the documentation done. But that means the persons are very, very skilled, know what to do, and had no time for coding and architecture and all of that. They only need to document it. So, but that's the case, and they have done it. And validation can be performed by the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And can be, but it is statistical, and you need to ensure it cannot really be performed by the manufacturer. It can be planned, organized, and executed by the manufacturer, but it should be users really using your software to perform the validation at the end. But everything else can be done. And depending on that slide, it is also for MDD. It is exactly the same, only that you don't have GSPR. You have the essential requirements. That's the same. That's a minimum requirement, even for a class 1.
So as you've said, for the validation, I have made a podcast with. I will maybe make this company name wrong again. I always make it wrong. General Digital Software Services. I hope Bill Stam is listening to that, and I didn't make a mistake. I think it's episode 7 where we talked about validation of software. And we discussed also about validation of software done by an independent company, because you also, when you develop, you should not develop and validate yourself. In terms of people, I mean, the same people should not be the one developing and then the one validating. So you have to have maybe other people doing the validation just to check that, as you mentioned, maybe users or other people to verify that what you have done is really matching the requirements. What else? What do you need to validate?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. I really love the question. I need for a software on the customer's end, I need to validate that I fulfill my user requirements. I take my user requirements, make them measurable, how much time they can take that for the time, decision failures, what is needed on that, and then I validate it exactly that the users use it in the way I want to have it, use it correctly with the terms I have in my user stories, and they do not need to have problems with looking at it, which direction do they need, how they need to work forward with it, and do they take workarounds, or what kind of information they have not really in the software, so that they can do not handle it performance. So you can measure it also by time and by usage, that you think about what time do you have for a specific task, and they need to fulfill the task with a specific end, or with a quality of picture recognition and all of that. There's many things, but they need to validate your user requirements and your intended use.
Okay, good. So if we go now to the slides, what we have next is the minimal, if I can say, launch of a product. As you say, MVP, minimal viable product, the significant change to be checked, and then to have a valid MDD DOC declaration of conformity, and then to launch. It is self-certification. So it means that everything is on the shoulder of the manufacturer. You have to do all this exercise. You don't need to involve the competent authority or to involve a notified body. You can involve consultants to be sure that what you have done is correct, to check that the documents are correct. But you have all the power, if I can say. It means that at the end, when you estimate that your product is good, that the documentation is good, and that you are fine, you draft your declaration of conformity, you sign it, and then you can launch the product. it is a class 1. So it means that you still have to inform each of the authorities where you are placing the products by sending them. Each authority has a form where you have to list things, and they ask you, I think, to provide the declaration of conformity, the IFU or something like that. I can't remember. I've done that. I remember a few years ago, but they ask you a list specifically, but you have to do that for each country. So if you go to Germany, how you do that? You go to each.
No. In Germany, I only registered it once.
So
and only if I am in Germany.
Okay.
Only the manufacturer in Germany needs to register the device in Germany. If you have it from a foreign country, you do not need to register it. If it's in Europe, if you're in Europe and you're selling your product to Germany and you have it registered, for example, in France, you do not need to register it in Germany again. But there are a few countries where you have to register it depending on your classification. You have to register it definitely in a different country. For the class 1, it's not needed in so many.
Yeah. So it's an administrative thing that you have to do anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody will stop you unless really they think that your product is not really a class 1. They can contact you and ask you more details. But as soon as you send that and they received it, and you have, I don't know if you even have to wait for the acknowledgement of receipt for that. But as soon as it's placed, and you can start to sell your products directly. And normally nobody can stop you to do that, and you can deliver, because free movement, you can deliver products everywhere, even in the UK for now, until end of the year when the transition period for Brexit will happen, and then you can do that. Okay, is there other questions from here?
Yes, there's one. How about when you want to place your devices on the US market?
Yeah.
Well, yes, that is a complete different topic, and it requires a few other hours. But I'm pretty sure Monir will find a slot or has something somewhere in his podcast already to make sure that it's done as well.
Yeah, we can discuss about that. I will try to invite also somebody from the US related to software specifically, to tell us exactly how softwares are registered to the US, and see and help you on that, because software is always a specific device, I can say, because it's not really material. It's really numerical, digital, with a lot of zero, a lot of ones. So it's why it can be a bit tricky just to compare it to any devices. Okay, we are now at 1 hour. Is there any other questions for people? Is there anything that we can help you with? Anyway, if you have questions, you can still reach out to us. So through LinkedIn or email. Here is the more details from Stefan about contacting him. So Stefan, those slides, I will make them available. All this will be recorded, so I will make that available on the YouTube channel next week, and I will place the slides also, so that if people want to get the slides again, I will put that on the link on the show notes, so that they can go directly and link to it. Okay, something else from your side, Stefan?
No, it was as always a pleasure. It's very great to have so many comments on it and seeing so many people who participate. So it's pretty cool.
No, I will try to do that for people every week. So next week, as I said, we have ISO 14971. The week after, I don't know now. I'm trying to find. I'm starting to plan another one with Annex 16. With cosmetic products or aesthetic products, so to know exactly how to do that. And I will try to invite somebody to help us to answer a question live. So if you have a question about that, so don't hesitate also to connect with me. As I've said, the difficulty with this process, live process, is the fact that you have to connect with me on LinkedIn so that you get the notification when I'm going live. But I hope they will make some kind of invitation so that I can send you directly an invitation, or that I can send you a link that you can just log in when the live is starting. But for now, it's a beta version, so it's why it's not. There have maybe more features to come. So the topic about significant change with Eric, we are working on that. With Eric, I talked with him this morning. So here it is. Okay, so thank you all for all your messages. So as I've said, don't hesitate also to tell people that this will be recorded, as this is recorded, so it will be live next week on the YouTube channel. Just Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you are notified when a new video is coming. So then you know exactly when it's there. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stefan. I think you have a flight to take now. So
Yes.
just run to the airport, and yeah, let's talk next time for another topic. So thank you, Stefan, for your help, and thank you, everybody, who is now on the live, and for all the questions that you asked. And I wish you a nice weekend to everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.